DSLR camera, and I just could not push out a true 60 FPS. I might have gotten to 45. I don't know. Who's counting? How do you count that? It just flashed my eyes 45 times.
45. What?
What up, techies and gamers? In this video, I'm gonna help you make a very important decision. And what I'm gonna help you decide today here is whether you should fork up the hard-earned cash, lots of money, for a Elgato 4K Cam Link, or should you hold on to your hard-earned cash for dear life and go with the cheaper no-name brand capture card. So in this video, I'm gonna do a side-by-side comparison just to show you what my experience was like working with the cheap 1080p no-name brand capture card versus the Elgato Cam Link 4K. And if you've been on YouTube researching this, you'll see that this is an age-old battle between the Cam Link versus the myriad of capture cards that are out there on the market that are really cheap, ranging from $15 to $50. A lot of them are just Chinese no-name brand capture cards. I've actually had one, tested one, did some gameplay with one, and you'd be surprised that the quality of these cheap $15, $20 capture cards is quite good. It's quite spicy.
It's a spicy meatball.
But can it hold a candle next to the Cam Link 4K? We're gonna find out in this video, so go ahead and stay tuned and watch, learn, and decide whether the Cam Link 4K fits you or if you just need a 1080p just for video conferencing and watching yourself all day long by yourself. What? Now, just for reference, what you're looking at here is actually the camera itself. No Cam Link connected to my PC. I'm just shooting straight raw video footage right from my SL3 camera. So this is with a microphone connected directly to the camera. So you're probably not gonna see much of a delay between the camera feed.
My mouth moving like that.
All right, so without further wait, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Let's connect all the hardware, the camera, the cam links, and everything to the PC, and let's get the testing. So just a little bit about the hardware requirements before you get started. You're gonna need to have a DSLR camera of some sort with a clean HDMI out. Otherwise, without clean HDMI out, then you might as well just stop the video here because you will not be able to do it. Take your iPhone and throw it out the window. What? Another piece of hardware you need is a mini HDMI to HDMI cable to connect from your camera to your Cam Link or your video capture card to your PC. And of course, you're gonna need screen capture software, right? You're capturing video gameplay on screen. So for my purpose, I've used OBS, that is open broadcast software. So if you wanna go ahead and try that out, if you haven't, I actually did a little bit of a review on that. Check that out in the link in the description. You'll get a little bit of insight on how OBS actually works and how to connect your camera and set up the settings in general in OBS. So just a little bit about the hardware construction of these capture devices. Let's go ahead and start with the 1080p cheap capture card. So right off the bat, I can feel that this capture card, it has some weight to it, right? It's metallic material all around, right? So it's pretty cool to the touch. This is a 3.0 USB 1080p capture card, so the data throughput should be sufficient enough for it to capture 1080p. Looking at the hardware construction of the Cam Link 4K Elgato device, it is slightly larger and bulky. It is plastic construction, feels pretty cheap. Slightly lighter than this metallic 1080p cheap capture card. But I don't think that makes any difference for me. That's neither here nor there. The weight and material make of it. It does come with the 3.0 USB extender, which I probably would advise to use if you're going to connect it directly close to your PC. Now the Cam Link, in comparison to the cheap capture cards, this Cam Link does in fact do 4K 30 FPS. It does a true 1080p 60 FPS for sure, and you will get 720p 60 FPS no problem. All right, so first up is the cheap 1080p capture card coming in at $17. I actually reviewed a little bit of this in my previous video. You can check the link right here. So basically what you're looking at here is the actual quality of that 1080p capture card. Now, for some of the requirements for even to be able to use a capture card and your camera for gameplay recording or just anything in general when you're recording on your TV doing screen capture, is your camera has to have a clean HDMI out. And what does that mean? Well, look at the screen right now. You'll see that there is this cool little face tracking software I have going on my camera. It comes with the SL3, does face tracking as well as, is it this eye or this eye? I can't see. This eye tracking.
Eye tracking.
And you'll see it displayed on the screen, and you'll also see, it's over here, this little record, right? These are on screen. Oh, look at that, I have like a little halo in my hand. I see some chromatic aberration happening here. So basically, clean HDMI out is being able to produce your display, your capture from your camera to your PC clean without all of the display information that comes from your camera itself, the on-screen displays where you can change resolution, sound, aperture, all that stuff. As you can see here, I have it on, but let's go ahead and turn that off. Voila, and here it is without the actual face tracking on the screen display you would see on your camera LCD, as well as the little record button up here. And I actually had all the other stuff off on my camera itself, so you can see all the other things that were showing on the display itself, which were like the display resolution, the sound, aperture, and all these things that kind of go all the way around your frame. But this is clean HDMI out, 1080p, 60 FPS, 60, right? Can't really tell, but we'll check it in post. That's one thing. So this is the quality, right? This is 1080p, 60 FPS, at least on my camera, and what supposedly advertised with this capture card. For all intents and purposes, it looks good. This is what you're gonna expect to see out of the box, right? It's quite good, the quality itself. Of course, one of the main benefits of this capture card is that it's, $17. It's very cheap, and you get good quality for that amount of money. Good resolution, decent frame rate and color reproduction. Can't really tell too much here. One thing I will say that I noticed, that I've been noticing, is that there is a slight delay between the video capture and the audio capture. So if you look here as I'm speaking, right, there's a little bit of a slight delay. So if I go back like that, you'll actually see that the video is coming in after the audio by a couple of milliseconds. I don't have a way to time that, but it's definitely noticeable with the 1080p capture card. Now this capture card is capable of doing supposedly 1080p 60 and 30 FPS, 720p 60 30 FPS, but I am looking at this and I'm thinking that that 60 FPS marketing on that box is a little bit of a gimmick. This does not look like 60 FPS by any stretch of the imagination. I do see, look at the delay there, right? Wax on, wax off. Look at that. That is definitely not 60 FPS. So might have been had, but $17. There's no really, I can't complain. It's $17 for pretty good quality. Now the only problem with that delay is that when I'm actually editing in my software before I upload to YouTube, is that I actually have to kind of offset the video and audio track. So what I end up having to do is separate the video from the audio and then kind of sliding it slightly to the right on my tracks so that it actually can match up. Now that can cause problems, and it's a little extra time to edit, and who wants to go through that? I guess you can go through it if you're just paying $17, right? So I did that on a few of my previous videos, and it was a little bit time consuming. I actually forgot about the delay when I started actually splicing some of the video, and when I got to about the 5th or 10th slice or something, and I realized, oh yeah, there's a delay. So now I have to go back and kind of just slide the track all together and move it over and try to time it, just a little minor inconvenience, maybe a major one if you miss it completely. So just something to think about. Now let's go ahead and make the switch to the Cam Link 4K in 3, 2, 1. Bam, and just like that, we're in the 4K Cam Link Elgato capture card. I don't know why I'm so excited. You know why I'm excited? Because when I'm looking at this side by side next to this 1080p cheap, is it on this side? I don't know. Maybe I won't put it on that side. Maybe I'll switch whatever side it's on. So as you can see here, the smoothness, right? Wax on, wax off. I'm gonna put the wax on cheap capture card version over on one of these sides. So you can see the difference in smoothness, right? The difference in frame rate. I could bring the 4K Cam Link down to 1030 to try to make a better comparison to the cheap capture card, but why would I do that when I have the 60 FPS option? So if I'm ever like game recording or doing anything with my camera and my Cam Link, I'm gonna go with 60 FPS, right? So if you notice on the cheaper capture card, you're gonna see that the saturation is quite bumped up a little bit, almost to the point where I'm kind of glowing. There's a little bit of too much luminance happening there. And that purple that's happening over on my right side is a little bit too purpley, right? The saturation on that is bumped up way up. So yeah, you're gonna get a little bit of a heightened saturation. Nothing you can't edit in post-editing, right? But what's better than not having to actually do that post-editing, right? The saturation and everything, the output is great. And you don't have to edit it, you just have to splice and go through what you have to go through without going those extra steps, right? Saves you time, and time is what? Time is money. So just something to think about. You might have to pay that money to save you that time. The other thing is the lag. I don't even really notice any lag whatsoever coming out of this Cam Link. So the output is pretty good. The synchronization with audio video is really good. Contrast colors, everything looks pretty real to life. I will say that there probably is some minor heightening of contrast. Some parts of my shirt are really black, right? Some shadows and stuff. And these bags on the eyes, what's happening here? It's really black, right? So this is just the 1080p 60 FPS part of it. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump the gun and I'm gonna go up into 4K 30 FPS, and let's see what that looks like on the Cam Link, something that the cheap capture card cannot do. And in 3, 2, 1, here we go. And boom, just like that, I'm at 4K 24 FPS. Now you notice that as soon as I switched, there was a crop that happened here. And that crop is one of the crop factors that takes place with this particular camera, the Canon SL3. Some people view this crop as a downside to it. I don't really use 4K so much. So if I wanted to compensate for the fat. Not all cameras come with this 4K crop factor, right? This is just something, you know, relative to the SL3. I know the Canon M50 does that as well. So there's a number of, you know, entry-level Canon cameras that actually create this crop factor, and probably other manufacturers as well. So just something to think about, you know, when you're going into purchasing this particular camera anyway, if you're gonna, you know, this is gonna affect your quality in any way. For me, if I really wanted to use 4K and I wanted to compensate for this crop factor, I would just simply move the camera back just a little bit if I wanted to capture more of the background, which I don't really need to do that when I'm capturing my gameplay, or if I'm just capturing my headshot in the game. I'm actually gonna crop that even more. 1080p 60 FPS is the way to go for just recording your face. That 60 FPS would be fantastic, miraculous running at, you know, for Zoom conference calls or Skype or whatever. So, all right, so I'm gonna switch back because I don't like looking at my face, you know, seeing the truth of my skin texture and everything, right? I'm getting up there in age. So let's get back quick, get out of this 4K. So in conclusion, there's neither wrong nor right when you're choosing either the Cam Link 4K or the cheaper capture cards. There's myriads of those online you can purchase, ranging from $15 to $50 depending on your preference. For me, I just tested this particular capture card, which I did see some reviews online. This is actually the 3.0 version of it. There's a 2.0. I was kind of disappointed. I did not get this true 1080p. I didn't get any 60 FPS out of this card. I tried checking different settings on my DSLR camera, and I just could not push out a true 60 FPS. I might have gotten to 45. I don't know, who's counting? How do you count that? It just flashed my eyes 45 times.
45. What?
However, plugging in that Cam Link 4K right away, I did see that true 60 FPS. Didn't have to do any changing of settings on my camera. My camera was already set to capture 60 FPS. So yeah, Cam Link, hands down, in my experience, in my testing here, it is way better than this 30 FPS capture card, right? I have seen some reviews where it's like, oh, it's pretty close, it's not worth the money, but it kind of depends what you want it for. So for example, if you're just gonna be using it for gaming, maybe perhaps you wanna get a better quality than just the, you know, standard Logitech, Microsoft. Perhaps for gaming, you want to upgrade your 1080p Microsoft or Logitech webcams, and you want to just use a DSLR camera, for example, just to get that better, I don't know, resolution, color saturation, focus, aperture, all those fun things you get with the camera. And you can go ahead and get a cheap capture card and just throw yourself in the corner, get a little 30 FPS, and you're good to go. But if we're talking about trying to be more professional and you want to look professional and have that feel for the audience, and they see that smooth, crisp resolution as well as that smooth, crisp frame per second moving along, then the Cam Link would be the way to go. Now, I went ahead and shelled out the $130. So if you want to go ahead and shell out the $130 just to get that level up in your gameplay recording and your streaming, you want to level up your, you know, Zoom calls by 1000%, just make everybody on Zoom look bad, then I would go with the Cam Link 4K for sure. I was intending on buying the Cam Link, testing it, and sending it back, you know, as I don't really need it. I was gonna stick with the 1080p cheap capture card. But seeing that quality, it's eye candy for me. I think I am going to stay using that Cam Link from here on out. I don't think I may never go back to that cheap capture card. I don't see the reason to if I'm gonna keep the Cam Link, right? Unless my Cam Link burns out and I need it immediately for, you know, a recording session, then maybe yeah, but it's Cam Link for me all day. So I don't know, you tell me what you think. You think it's worth, you know, having this on your gameplay or that? Does it even really matter? To me, it matters. I watch other gamers, I watch other streamers, and when I see some of these streamers with their 1080p 60 FPS, I find myself watching them more just because it feels good to my face and my eyes. What? Is that a thing? I like to see the quality of it, and it just makes me feel like I'm watching something worthwhile, worth my time, and I'm actually learning something. I don't know about you, but I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with the Cam Link. What? Who needs this? This is garbage. Throw this out of it. All right, techies and gamers, if you found this informative, entertaining, and you got some value out of it, you were able to actually use this video to decide whether or not you're gonna go with the Cam Link versus the 1080p cheap capture card, then go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, and that way you get the notice when I produce a new video, and I can pop in your face and in your phone and in your house when I produce my next new video. See you next time.